Okay, so we're going to switch it up a bit this time. Our first two episodes were rather serious. And
Now it's going to be a little bit funny.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think it's a little bit more lighter than what we have been talking about in the last two episodes. So
I could say the first two episodes was really about me. I'm more the political one.
yes, he is. And I'm more of the relationship self-help type of person. So
now we're going to see the collabo.
And we're going to dive into some differences and similarities when it comes to the single life versus the married life.
Especially being black in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Just what we experience. But anyway, I think it's ready to get started.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's get into another episode of Black Relativity.
Ladies and gentlemen,
where we discuss all topics, tribulations, and issues that are experienced within the black community, from the standard to the most controversial. No filters, no boundaries, just real talk. This is Black Relativity with your hosts, Gary and Shireen Mariner.
So, I don't know how many men in Atlanta have heard this or come across this, but I had a friend who said to me, Gary, once you get married and you put that ring on your finger out here in Atlanta, you become a target because there's so many more women out there than there are heterosexual men who are interested in a relationship. And so they're just going to be coming at you.
This is true.
So we had to take a little bit of a deeper dive into that to find out why. What's the reason behind this? So we looked up this statistic from the Atlanta Journal Constitution. I think this is AJC.com.
Yes, always a statistic.
Right, always a statistic. It says Atlanta has about 80,000 more single women between the ages of 18 to 64 than single men, which is one of the largest such gaps in the country, according to an analysis of the U.S. Census data.
And that's just crazy. I mean, I wonder, when it comes to that statistic, I'm wondering if it's looking at single heterosexual males or just males in general. I'm wondering how that's being calculated.
I had another friend who had a conversation with me and was like, you know what? When I first moved down here, before me and Shireen got super, super serious and, all the stuff that we went through in our relationship. But they said to me, here in Atlanta, and this statistic wasn't real at the time, but this is what they said to me. They said that it's 7-1 as far as women to men. But then they said when you look at the whole LGBTQ situation with either men who are gay, bisexual, or in the closet, when you're talking about a man who wants to be with a woman and who's interested in a woman, who likes women and only women and wants to be at home with a woman only, the number grows to like 14-1, which then made sense to me why women were so aggressive.
Yeah, because it's hard to find somebody. You're basically throwing yourself in the competition pool to see who can win the man.
Now, as a heterosexual male here in Atlanta, one of the things as far as how that plays a part in being a married man is you got to be real careful with who you talk to, what you say, what you do, where you go, because you can catch yourself in some sticky situations.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that you kind of can get yourself involved in. And there's a lot of things that you have to look at when you're out there in the dating world, when you're single versus when you're married.
So that kind of leads directly into the topic of this episode, which is the difference between being single and being married.
Yep.
Now, one of the first things that I think we all should understand about being single is sexual diseases, or STDs, as you want to call it, whatever. And it's just so much easier if you're not doing what you're supposed to do to catch a STD because you're out living the life.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you're sleeping around with multiple people, yeah, you're gonna run that higher risk of sexual diseases versus when you're married, and provided that you're being faithful in your marriage, you don't have that issue.
I'm an honest person. When I was single, I was a little bit careless, so to speak. But that was because my love for the feminine persuasion was a little bit out of control. It's kind of like somebody who loves candy and they just can't get enough. And so I know
I don't think you ever told me you were careless.
not, I wouldn't say
That's news to me.
I would I wouldn't say careless in regards to like the STD aspect, but I just, if I found you attractive and at the same time, truth be told, I'm very shy. You'll never believe it if you meet me.
It's lies.
You will never believe it. But
Gary is shy when it comes to women
Yes.
and approaching women, but he is not a shy individual.
Yeah, I am the life of the party. But if Ciara was in front of me, I would be the turtle that shriveled up inside its shell.
Yeah,
Because
it has to do with women. I'm the definition of shy, probably more so than you are, because I'm not just that easy to just go and just talk to people randomly. I just don't do that.
yeah, I don't care. I'm gonna talk to you. If there's nothing that's going to happen between me and you after this interaction, if it's just going to be platonic and I'll see you and be like, yo, what up, blah, 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 or we're just friends, then I'll have every conversation where I'll talk to you about anything on the planet. But if I know that I could get some, oh, there's a problem. I don't know what to say. I have no game.
But how are you going to know if you're able to get some if you're too shy to talk to somebody?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with my ego.
Oh Lord.
Because I really thought I was the shiznit back in the day. I mean, I still think that now, but whatever.
Oh my goodness.
I really felt like there was nothing that anyone could do to you that I couldn't do to you or learn how to do better. And because in my mind that was always there was nothing that made me feel as though I didn't have an option or I didn't have a opportunity until someone told me no. And then
you like the challenge. You like to be challenged. And before we go down that rabbit hole of that, because that can be a whole nother story in itself.
For real. But I mean, from a sexual disease standpoint or STD standpoint, there's so much that you have to be concerned about, especially now. And, people are a little bit, well, some people are very careless and you don't necessarily know if, let's say you're the one who's being careful, if the person that you decide to deal with is or isn't, because
I think that also goes back to how you go about your dating life when you're trying to get to know people. There are some people who date and they like to date multiple people, and that's fine when they let somebody know up front, hey, I like to date multiple people, so you're not the only one that I'm trying to get to know. Me personally, I prefer to just date one-on-one and not have to think about you dating somebody else, because I don't know what you're doing with somebody else. And then you're coming in and talking to me or whatever. And I just that unknown, I just don't like. I just feel more comfortable if we're just dating each other and that's it for that moment. And then if it doesn't work out, then you go and date somebody else.
See, I was kind of the same way. And that's only because, and I'm going to break this down to very simplistic terminology, but, as an only child, I didn't really like sharing my toys. And so when I got something that I could play with, it was mine.
That sounds very sexual. I mean, it
is what it is. I'm a very sexual person, so it is what it is.
Yes.
But anyway, my problem was I didn't like to share. And at the same time, because I also knew men who were bisexual, and I knew men who were gay. I wasn't friends with them at that time, but I did have a friend who was bisexual, a male friend who was bisexual, and I knew that me and him operated the same way. And because we did, in my mind, I didn't want to have to get in a situation where I was tonguing down my girlfriend or getting real interactive, and I didn't know who you were doing that with when you left me and how that could then impact me. And so I had to close that situation down.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. And that's, to me, that's the biggest benefit with being married. I don't have to worry about that. My wife is my wife. That's everything that's with her is just shared between me and her, and there's no issues.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no worries about STDs unless one of us steps out. But we've had long conversations about that because of how that may have impacted us when people did it in the past, and how we're not going to do that to each other just because we know how much it hurt.
Exactly.
So moving past sexual diseases, you also have crime. Another one of those aspects that I would say I am a huge...
I mean, and I guess you're referring to crime in the sense of
like rape, people getting...
I mean, yeah. I mean, when you look at that in the aspect of single versus married, yeah, you have a higher risk of, say, rape or something like that if you're out there dating people that you don't really know too well. You know, you're trying to get to know them, and you may not know their past history. Or a good example is oh gosh, it's a Tyler Perry movie. It had all of the women in there.
Oh, Brewster Place?
No. That's a whole movie.
Better than I do. But
I'll look it up. But it's basically in the movie, one of the women, she was a dancer. She went on a date with a guy, and he was very sweet. The actor that played the guy was Khalil Kain, who I was obsessed with when I was younger. Khalil Kain played in the movie Juice. He was Raheem. And she went out on a date with him, had a really good time, and she had a second date, decided to have a second date with the guy, and he asked if she could cook for him, and she agreed, and she invited him over to her place because she had a good time that first time, and didn't realize that when she invited him over that he was actually going to rape her. And I'm still trying to find that.
Don't worry about it. Once we find it, we will definitely link this in on this episode, so that way if you haven't seen the movie, you can watch it yourself and get an understanding of it, because this is something that, you know, we've had to deal with, you know, as black people, and it's a constant thing that we have to worry about, especially, you know, going back to the point that I was trying to make.
Oh, for colored girls.
There you go.
That's what it's called, for colored girls.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have a problem, a very big beef, and this has, you know, to do with trauma from when I was a child. I have a problem with people who abuse mentally, physically, emotionally women, as far as men who do that to women. I have a big gripe when it comes to disrespecting women, but that's also because I lived in a house with 7 women, and that's, you know, the thing that I held most dear in my life. So, you know, so when you speak about crime, you can also speak about abuse. You can also speak about rape, and how all of those things, you know, are either things to be wary of. And to go back to the point that you were saying about how she didn't really know the guy, and for colored girls, and then all of a sudden he ends up raping her in the house. The problem that I have with a lot of people, and it doesn't matter whether it be that I'm interested in you or, you know, we're just friends, you really don't know the person that you're dealing with unless you've had time with them. And, you know, I always say, I've said to my children, the mask that people put on when they meet you,
they're representative.
Yeah, that's who you meet, is the representative. You never meet the real person behind the mask until you've either lived with them or been through some ish with them, because they're not going to show you their true colors, because it's the thing that either hurts them the most.
Well, it hurts them the most, or it could be they just don't want to scare you off at first. I mean, everybody's going to have some downfalls that they may view as negative within themselves, but that's not something that they want to put out on Front Street right away, because they don't want to, you know, make somebody run in the opposite direction right at the beginning.
At the same time, I don't want you to have a negative opinion about me or judge me. And one of the biggest problems that we have is being judgmental.
Yeah.
You know, most of the people in this world are super judgmental before even really getting to understand you. And that's, you know, a big issue in the black community. Just being black, we're judged every single day. So how do you get over that fear that you have automatically just because of the color of your skin?
Oh, and a good story of me judging Gary and in the beginning of our relationship is and a good example of him putting a representative out there at first. Gary told me in the beginning how he loved to cook, and I hate cooking. I don't. Not that I don't know how. I just don't really like cooking. It's just not a thing that I like to do. So to meet somebody like Gary to tell me that he loves cooking and loves cooking for people, you know, you get the notion that he actually knows how to cook a whole lot of different things. So I was extremely excited that, you know, I hadn't met somebody that can actually cook me a whole bunch of food. I ain't got to worry about cooking. Come to find out, Gary cooked like 3 of the same meals over and over and over at the time.
It wasn't 3. It was more like 7.
No, I don't think it was not 7. It was like 3 or 4. And that expanded over time as he developed his taste palette for different things. But, you know, he loved to cook, but he loved to cook those 3 to 4 different meals. And I was like, well, what happened here?
See, the problem with that was we didn't really have the conversation about how much of a picky eater I was. And because of how much of a picky eater I am, or was at the time, there wasn't a lot of things that I was going to cook because I wouldn't eat them.
And we don't want to go down that list of what you will not eat.
Right.
That is, yeah.
We can be on that for a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
But anyway, because of that fact, you don't really know when to fully trust someone to know whether they're going to be what they show you or something different. And because of that, there's a lot of angst and anxiety and mistrust in the single world. And that's something that always shied me away from being single. I was always the type of person who ended up in long relationships. I was with you between 6 months to 2 years because I just didn't like dealing with a whole bunch of new faces.
And another good example, I have a lot of examples, but a good example of, you know, with Gary mentioning that, you know, you don't really know who you're actually dealing with. Something that I didn't realize was actually a part of Gary was, you know, in the beginning, you know, a lot of us women will watch a lot of these romantic movies and things like that, and we'll see all of these different things that the men will say to women that are just so highly romantic, and you know, they just make you melt and this, that, and the other, you know, those movie script type of lines. And Gary used to say these things to me all the time, and a lot of times I would kind of give a side eye because I was like, you know, this sounds like something that would come from a movie, but not realizing that was who Gary was. That wasn't a representative. That was actually him. But I just never heard anybody talk to a woman that way, and it surprised me.
So key note to all the women out there who are listening to this podcast: don't push us romantic fellas to the side. We're good for the long run. You got to put stock in us. You know what I'm saying? We flip after we mature.
Yes. Yes.
So you got to give us time. But anyway, because of those differences, it's really hard being single to understand what you have in front of you, whether you're safe, whether it's something that's going to really be worth it for the long run, and it's confusing.
And I think that, you know, when you look at how confusing it can be and looking at how the dating scene is out there now versus, I would even say, even though we're not old or anything, you know, when we were going through the dating world, you know, we didn't have a lot of this social media that was going on. And I mean, I feel kind of old saying that because, you know, Facebook started when I was, I had to have been maybe a sophomore or junior in college. So, you know, it wasn't out that long.
Yeah, when Facebook was college email invite only.
Yeah, exactly. And so we didn't have all that social media where we could sit there and meet people. We had to actually meet people organically and meet them in common circles that we may have been in at that time compared to now.
Shout out to MySpace, Black Planet.
Yeah, MySpace or whatever, because that's how I've met Gary and how I met a couple of people that I knew and have dated.
If you
So
know anything about MySpace, comment, because that's going to really show how how much you had to deal with, because all these people nowadays, they get around sliding in people's DMs, and it's like, yo, you're whack.
well, well, if you're commenting about MySpace, put what your song was when your page opened up.
Yeah,
That's
put the song.
that'll kind of really tell you how old you are.
Did you have graphics in your background?
I don't remember what my MySpace page looked like at
Mine
all.
was lit.
I didn't put all that effort into mine. I had a song, I think, but I don't remember.
I thought I was a coda.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, get back to the topic. So
So when you look at, how people get to know each other, and the way that we got to know each other when we were younger, and how we got to know people that we wanted to date, me and Gary had very different ways of getting to know somebody that that we wanted to date.
So I'll start with mine, just because I'm weird. Whatever. Most of the time, if I ended up meeting someone or getting into a relationship with someone, it was that someone that I knew, either my sister or my friend, hooked me up with you because they already knew I was interested, and I didn't have the testicular fortitude to step up to you myself. So they made it happen. Other than that, you danced with me, and that was the only way that I hooked you.
But when they introduced you, what happened then?
So the first ever time that someone hooked me up with somebody, it was Gary Kisser.
I mean, okay, so they just introduce you to somebody that you like and say Kisser?
We knew each other because we used to play, like hang out and chill, and it was part of the whole crew, whatever, and they knew that I was.
So you knew the person, and they knew you, but they didn't know that you liked them.
Absolutely. Most people never knew.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden it's just like, Gary, I dare you to kiss her. And then that was that. And that's how it happened.
What happened? Then y'all started dating?
Yeah, I mean that's how it hooked up. That was my first sweetheart. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, you met me on the dance floor, and the only time that I would say that my shyness went away was on the dance floor. I didn't say nothing to you. I was the guy, and any girls who are listening to this podcast right now, you're gonna sit there and die laughing at me, because I was the guy who just walked up behind you thinking that I was the shit, and I was super sexy, and I would just come up and slide up, and dance with you. And if you didn't like me dancing with you, like behind you, because that's how us guys, we did it. We walked up and started grinding on you from behind. But if you didn't like that, then I would step to the side and I would two-step with you, or I would dance with you and your crew, so everybody thought that I was cool. And then after they thought that I was cool, the one who was paying too much attention to me, and this was the problem, if you look me in my eyes, I got you.
Oh my Lord.
So you don't look me in my eyes, because now you flirting with me, and if you flirting with me, or something about to happen. So
you wouldn't have gotten me either one of those ways. That is definitely not how I work.
So that's the reason why it's so weird how me and Shireen came together, because everything about what I did being single is nothing that would have attracted her, and everything that she did, she would have never met me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but we had a common element, which was school, which was junior high school. So I mean that kind of initiated things.
Pretty
but
much.
My way of I wouldn't say getting somebody, but when it came to a point of actually dating somebody, I'm the type that always was friends first. And I just like the whole process of getting to know somebody as a friend, and not as a friend to say, okay, I'm gonna be a friend, be your friend for, a month or two, and then we're going to start dating. That wasn't even established at the beginning, that we're going to be friends and then go into dating. I was always just organically a friend, and to the point where we could have conversations about who you may be dating at the time, who I may be dating at the time. This way I can kind of see how you maneuver in those type of situations without me actually being involved in it myself, and being friends and getting that closeness together then we can decide down the road, hey, okay, we're really cool friends and we may actually have a conversation about actually dating. And then we would move on from being friends to dating or being in a relationship. And that's how I would get into a relationship generally. And if the relationship didn't work out, most of the time in situations where I've been in relationships, and I say most because there are always those few that don't turn out this way, but most of the relationships that I would be in, if they didn't work out, we would just go back to being friends. We say the relationship part didn't work, so we go back to the friend part. That part worked, so let's stay there. And I would still maintain a friendship. And I loved doing that because there wouldn't be any hard feelings left or anything like that. I can kind of keep things in a nice and simple place.
See, I wish I had someone like Shireen when I was growing up who taught me that way. Because when the relationship ended, you were dead. I never heard from you again. I mean, there's a couple of people that I may still talk to or whatever. But most of the people that I've dated in my past or came across, they don't know me. I don't know them. Don't talk to me. And then that's just how it was, and I know a lot of people who are like that. Once it's over, it's over.
But why?
Dead.
Why? Well, I think that because you may not have that foundation there to go back to.
And I agree. That was the whole thing. And that's, I think that has a lot to do with maturity, at the same time, and this is something that we're going to get into on a further episode where we're going to talk about, communication and, being open with each other. So that way you don't feel that there's a need to be jealous about an ex or about a previous situation that may have more influence on your spouse or your significant other or your girl or your man than you do at the moment. But like I said, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
Moving right along, to go back to what I was saying about, most of the time, the only way that I, caught a girl or got a girl was in the club. One of the biggest differences right now to me is the club scene. And we really don't go to clubs anymore right now, primarily because
we don't have time for clubs.
That's
I mean,
number one.
I'll fall asleep at like 9:00, so I'm not even up to even start getting ready for a club.
Now, don't get me. I love to dance. I'm a huge dancer. I love being up 3, 4, 5 hours. I won't even drink. Just give me some ice and I'll be good. I'll be going. But too many dudes fight for no reason.
Did you see that a lot in clubs? I didn't see that a lot in clubs.
That's because I went to clubs a lot in New York.
And I never went to clubs in New York, only in Atlanta.
Yeah, they fought all the time for stupid reasons. Yo, you stepped on my kicks, or yo, this is my girl, or you wasn't here, or you spilled my drink, or some stupidity. And it's like, I think that has a lot to do with maturity. So now, like, I just recently went to a day party, and that was the most mature party I've ever been to. And everybody was cool, and nobody had any, issues, and everybody was talking, and we were vibing like it was the 90s. And I need more of that. So if I was to ever go to anything, I would go to a day club. I would take my wife to a day club where we can go and we can chill, and everybody could just be super friendly, and she could exist the way that she does, where she doesn't have to get up and dance and all of that. But it's also during the day where it's sunny outside and we're not sleepy because we got kids, we got adulting to do.
Even though I am used to, when I think about clubs, I'm always thinking about going there at night. To go to a day club will be a little weird for me at first to try to do that, because I don't know, I don't know if my mind will sync with being at a club during the day.
Well, see, the day party that I went to wasn't at a club. It was at an Airbnb.
It's like a house party.
Yes and no, because it was a real upper class establishment. Like, I know some day parties, and shameless plug, any day party announcers, people who host day parties out here in Atlanta, holla at me. CEO GLM on Instagram, you already know the deal. Day parties can be held at a mansion. They can be held at a pool. They can be held at, really nice establishments. But the thing about it is, the people who can go to that normally are entrepreneurs or people who have different work schedules, because they're available during the day and their kids may be at school where they have free time.
So basically, well, and I don't know if that's generally just a day party thing, because to me, it almost comes across as when you're going out to a club or anything like that, it's just a matter of the age group that's there. When you look at, excuse me, our age group when we were younger, we fit into the mold of how nightclubs may be.
Well, see, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that also has to deal with the type of music that's played nowadays. And I can't get with some of this mumble rap.
Yeah, I don't like a lot of the rap out there.
I'm so sorry.
That's horrible.
I'm sorry. You got to come harder than that. You know what I'm saying? I got to actually understand what the heck you're saying.
Well, it's not even that. Yeah, I got to understand what you're saying, but I also got the melody and everything has to make me want to dance.
Yeah,
and it doesn't. But that's a whole nother topic.
Anyway. So we're going to move right along. So we kind of talked about a lot of different struggles that we've had being single that kind of led us to being married. But I just want to get into some of the things that I feel are benefits that I found being in a long-term relationship, being married to my wife. Shireen, you can kind of tag in on that one too, because I feel personally I've been able to keep my sanity.
Sanity from what?
So, being a husband that always likes to come home or likes to be home with his children, with his wife, and I see you every single day, there's no opportunity or time for you to turn around and go, where you at? What you doing? Who you with? All those questions that I might get from a girl that I'm dating who may be insecure.
No, there's some jealous. There are some married people that are saying those questions too.
That's true, but then I think that also has a lot to do with three things: maturity, knowing your placement in the marriage, because there's a difference between a relationship that's just beginning where you haven't built up a foundation, and then a relationship or marriage where you have built a foundation and you know where you stand in that person's mind and heart, where you don't have to worry. And a lot of times you have people who haven't built that up, and so they have a lot to question, and so then those questions become valid, and so I can understand it to a certain point. And that was the thing that I was searching for. And me and Shameen, we talked about this in the past. I had a problem not being Neo. I had to be the one.
Yeah.
I have a big problem with not being the one in your life, because I put my women in that position from day one. I even tell this to my kids. I'm like, everybody who meets me gets 100 from the jump. You start off with 100. It's you who fucks it up. You bring the grade down. And once you get to a point where you're failing, you got to go, because I didn't do that to you. I'm not the one who is, pushing all this negativity on you. You're the one who's bringing it.
Oh, really?
Shut up. Well, at least I should say I give it my all and I try my best.
That's better.
I am, I'm not perfect. I never will be, but I do try as hard as I can, as much as I can, when I can. And, I'm a guy. Sometimes I just don't think as good as I need to, because that's just not where my mind is at. And so I can forget. But when I do remember, or when it comes up and I make sure to pay attention and do what's right, I shine and I make sure of it.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Now, one of the benefits that I really like when it comes to being married, and I don't know if this is considered a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a benefit to me. I love the fact that I can walk around looking like a ragamuffin and know that Gary still finds me beautiful and still is very attracted to me, even when I feel like I look like crap for whatever reason. And Of course, in a marriage, you want to keep yourself up, and do things to entice your spouse and everything like that. But to know on those days where you're just not with it and you want to walk around with the infamous bonnet on your head or a head wrap or something or whatever, sweats and a t-shirt, that your spouse still finds you attractive. And that's something that I love because, you hear about women out there who are dating guys that may have guys sleep over or go sleep over at a guy's house, and they're trying to keep themselves looking at 100 when they wake up in the morning, and that is just entirely too much work for me.
I'll be honest with you. I know guys, not anybody that I'm close with now, but I know guys who are married who are like, yo, if she don't do what she got to do, man, there's somebody else who will,
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, that can be a whole nother topic. I mean, yeah, I can say a lot to that.
That, number one, that goes back to the base that you have as far as, knowing your position in that person's heart and mind in the relationship and the union that you all have created. And if you haven't built that up, all types of things can go down.
But that also goes into, and this is something that we'll speak about in the next episode when in regards to communication. Communication is a big thing. So it needs to be communicated as to why that woman is not doing what a guy feels she should be doing, to try to get to the root of whatever the issue may be that may be causing the guy to not get what he feels that he should be having.
I've learned, from dealing with, different women from my past who've either been raped or who've had horrible sexual experiences or, just have horrible experiences with males from family or friends or whatever the case may be, that until you actually sit down and have a real heart-to-heart communication with the woman, or for any women who are out there, for the man that you're dealing with, until you know what's eating at their heart that makes them not do what it is that you want them to do for you, to make you feel good or to make you feel wanted, feel desired, give you the ingredients that you need to light that fire, until you figure it out, you're never going to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's something that I had to learn in our relationship. My communication was horrible, absolutely horrible. And
yeah, we both had to kind of work on our communication in the sense of knowing how to get what we needed out of the other person to get across our point to that other person. We had to figure out how that person interprets certain things and actually work to communicate in that way.
And I think one of the things, the differences between my mindset when being single, when I didn't put a ring on your finger, I wasn't trying to be married to you or nothing like that. I was just, we were just in a relationship. I didn't have a need to do all of that. I didn't have to put all that work, or at least at that time, my male mindset was, why do I have to put all of this work into you if I don't know if you're going to be around? But now that I'm married and I know my wife is going to be around, there's more of a reason for me to try and figure things out. And that to me is also a really big benefit, but negative on the single side, but benefit for the married side, because I just really don't need to know all of those things about your woes and your yada, 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 because the Uber's outside.
And you're talking about during the single life.
Yeah.
About to say you're not doing that now.
I'm saying that, but that's when you think about it, if you only meeting with somebody on a date here and there, you may spend a night at their spot.
But how are you going to get to know somebody? I mean, I think it's good to try to find out somebody's woes even when you're single, because then you'll get to know what's going on with that person. And you can then further find out if you can see a future with that person or not. If you're not discussing it, then you're kind of just stuck in this loop.
So that goes back to the point that I made earlier. I wish I had somebody who would talk to me like Shireen talks and how she believes from the jump, because then, and you know, a lot of women out there can also say there are a lot of men who do what I was talking about and don't do that other aspect until they find somebody that they want to give it a try. But that comes later on down in life. And if we all took the opportunity to really sit down and get to know each other and figure those things out, you may realize that you may have missed that person that was for you a while ago, just because you didn't have your mind in the right place and you didn't take the time.
And their mind not being in the right place could also play a factor in their intentions. What is their intention when they're dating a person? Is it just to have sex with them, or is it actually to try to build something with them? Because, yeah, if you're just trying to have sex with them, you're not going to be doing much of anything. You're just trying to do whatever you need to reach that goal of getting them, and then you're going to move on. You're not going to care about their woes or whatever, because what does that have to do with anything? You know, unless you're trying to build something with them, then you're going to try to dig deeper.
Now, I will be the first guy out there who will say, honestly, first thing that I ever wanted in a relationship was to have sex with you. And it doesn't matter what woman that came across me. The first thing that I see is something that I want to devour.
And I would agree with that, because when Gary first came to visit, well, when I reconnected with him on MySpace, and I met up with him because he happened to be in Atlanta for a job or something like that, an interview or something. And I met up with him at the hotel that he was at. When I went there, my intention was to see somebody that I hadn't seen in 10 years. You know, let me give a big hug, sit down and talk with you, get to know you. Just, you know, everything that I said earlier about how I get to know somebody, because, yeah, I used to be obsessed with you, but let me see what you got going on now. And as soon as I came in there, he was trying to get me. And
so let me let y'all understand what happened as far as in my mind. This model hit me up talking about, yo, I used to, you know, swoon over you, and I used to blah, 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 blah.
10 years ago, though.
Yeah, that's all cool. But the way you started it was, yo, I'm super interested. I wanted you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at the pictures and I'm going through. I'm like, yo, this chick is a dime. I got to have that. So predator mode comes on. And and most women, this is what you meet in the beginning. You meet predator mode. We are the lion, the king of the jungle, who just saw prey, and we finna go ham. And we gonna do everything in our minds and our power to let you break down your guard so we can go ham. And then what are we gonna do? Like a kid with a brand new piece of candy that tastes the best that they ever had. If you ever listen to Eddie Murphy and you listen to him talk about,
the cracker, the cracker when you're starving on Eddie Murphy Raw.
Is that a Ritz? That's how a guy is. Understand this. I want every woman to know this is exactly what you're meeting. First scenario, we're looking at this Ritz cracker, and we want a bite. And we're going to do everything in our power to get a bite.
Yeah, and that was not cool with me. I wasn't cool with that. I was just like, what is going on? No. I did not want that. I was turned off by that. I was just like, no, because my intention was something else. Because I wanted to see what was going on with him, to see if there was something that could be developed further. But I'm not going to, that doesn't happen with me trying to have sex with you right when I see you. Like, no.
Now, see, here's the difference, okay? I know men who will do that, get their rocks off. They may do it a couple of times and then they're done with you and then throw you away like you ain't nothing. I was never like that. I'm the type of guy, the first time that I do something, because I'm a very emotional person, I lead with my heart. Although the other head may talk in the beginning and take control, the moment that I actually do something, my heart comes into play. I'm a very, very emotional person.
But a woman would not get that if the first thing that you're trying to get is trying to have sex with her. Because they're going to automatically think, okay, this is what you want from me, you know, and then their whole intention is now, okay, this is not what I want, let me leave.
It's true. Now, and this is the reason why I'm saying this, because I want, you know, women to understand that there's guys who are like this, and then there's a different there's other guys who are not. And so I'm trying to give y'all a perspective from a guy who is not like that, you know, because yes, I did go for the cat. However, the moment that I do, I'm the type of person, like I said, I don't like to go around and do stuff with any and everybody, or have new people all the time. I'm not like that. I like to be locked down. I like to know that the person that I'm doing something with is the person that I'm gonna do it with for a long time. And because of that fact, I get emotionally tied real quick. My emotions get sparked immediately, and then I start to develop things. I start to, do, like, if Shireen will tell you.
That's a rarity, though. I mean,
No, but see, that's the thing. It's not. And that's the problem. Most women think that it's a rarity, but it really isn't. There's a lot of guys out there who are really emotional, down
but when you
home.
have 90 out of 100 guys that are not doing that in the way that you describe it, then 10 are, like...
Well, see, here, that goes back to the aspect that we were talking about. Trauma, expectations, your friend circle, and society make you think that what you're doing is acceptable and it's the right thing to do. Like, if you think about it, any kid from the 80s and the 90s, we grew up with them talking all types of stuff about sex and gangbangs and shoot 'em up and blah blah blah, and there was no real emphasis or focus on treating women right. There was, calling a woman this and B and C word and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no real respect for women from a man's standpoint. And from a man's standpoint, if you was sitting there being all emotional, you was a bitch. You was, you was a punk. You was a pussy. Blah blah blah. So the guys who were like that had to push all of that to the side. And if you look at current day, it's even worse. Ain't no guy letting his emotions come out, because how's that gonna look with the boys? What's that gonna look like with my crew? What's that gonna look like? The only person who gets to see that is my lady, and it takes time for you to become my lady, and you only see that behind closed doors. And the moment that door opens up and I'm back in front of the boys, all of that's gone.
Yeah.
And you have to realize, going back to the original point that we made, the representative that you put on when you walk out the door, the same person that's, because you remember, you got different faces that you put on every day. You got the face that you put on at work. You got the face that you got to put on in front of your family. You got the face that you got to put on in front of your crew. You got the face that you got to put on in front of, when you go for an interview, when you go out into general public,
even in front of your kids.
Yeah, you got so many different hats and faces that you got to put on. The only person who really gets to know you is either your ride or die, your best friend, or your spouse. And sometimes those three people know three different people.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. It's really hard. And because we don't take the time to really invest, break down those walls, and sometimes you really got to do the work on yourself, which is why therapy is such a big thing. You really need to deal with your own trauma, your own problems, and your own situations, so that you can learn how to love yourself, because you can't love anyone else until you first know how to love yourself.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like we said, with this episode, we wanted to focus on single life versus married life, and that's going to continue into our next episode, dealing with communication and just the different aspects of communication that are definitely needed in a relationship.
We're going to run through a couple of episodes dedicated to this understanding, just giving you a deeper dive into
our opinions,
our thoughts, our minds as a married couple here in Atlanta, and what we have to deal with, what we've come across, what has impacted us, what has kind of made us into the people that we are, and the relationship that we have, and the respect and love that we have for each other. And I met someone not too long ago who had said to me, a lot of times when you're single, you take relationship advice from people who are single, or people who are from broken relationships, or people who have been divorced, who really don't know how to make a relationship work. And you need to have somebody that you can go to who's been in a long-term relationship and still in a relationship who knows how to deal. And
well, you want to get advice from somebody or a couple that is in a relationship that is working and that exemplifies what it is that you may want for yourself.
one of the things that I've always envied from Shireen, her parents are still ongoing.
40 something years. I don't remember.
I'm saying it's kind of hard to come across something that's been around for that long and you not have any angst or issues between each other. Yes, my mother is married, my father is married, but to have that length, and even my grandparents have been together since I was born, but they just got married recently. Love them to death, but what it took to get through all of those years and everything that they went through, you got to speak to somebody who has that wealth of knowledge. So we're gonna wrap this thing up here. I appreciate you guys for hanging out with us.
And I hope you enjoyed this switch up that that we did. And I mean, there'll be more of that because there are just a lot of different topics that we can discuss.
I mean, on the very first episode where we let you guys get to know us, just the introduction to us, we talked about a lot of different topics that we're going to touch on. But this one, we're going to focus on this black love for a little while just because there's a lot that we can dive into. And you'll see that in the next coming episodes. But appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.
Peace out.
Peace.
Enjoyed this episode? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And check out our website at blackrelativity.com for additional info and discussions. Also, if you know someone that will like this content, take a screenshot and share it on social media. From the standard to the most controversial topic, we got you covered. This is Black Relativity.